Welcome, Scene Squad. I'm your host, politic and cultural critic Sharon with two R's. I'm joined today with my co-host and financial guru Rosalie, and you're listening to Seen and Heard podcasts.
Okay, let's go.
Thanks for joining Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, like, share, comment. If you would like to support us in our content, all the links will be in the description box. And we would like to hear from you. Express yourself. Hashtag express yourself or hashtag Seen and Heard podcast on your social so we can find you and we might feature you and your story on a future show. So I want to show off my specs. I think y'all have seen these right here again, and the links to the glasses site for men, women, and children will be in the description box. So happy AAPI month. AAPI month. It's AAPI month. I'm going to play this video in honor of AAPI month.
King China, ding 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 ding. King China, ding 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 ding. King China, ding 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 ding. King China. Vẫn còn sát đến tối đi về làm nhạc thì đó chỉ là anh. Vẫn còn chất rap nghệ an chất pha miền Trung anh răng rái. Đó là tại vì sao anh vẫn hăng say với cái đôi găng tay. Vì chứng minh cho thấy là cái thằng đi đến từ một bàn tay vẫn có thể làm được không phải ăn mày.
I hope that wasn't a copy. That won't give me a copyright strike, but that's a fun song. I like that song. So, Rosalie, what are your thoughts on our opening?
It's very, very bright and colorful. Oops. Apparently, my daughter loved it. I honestly would rather hear your thoughts, frankly, because this is not my niche. This is your niche.
Oh, well, you know that he took off all of the major holidays off of the calendar, off of Google. Like they used to, every month, they used to have like a Google celebration of every month, like holidays and stuff. So we'll just mention it on the podcast and share it on our socials. So it doesn't matter what they do in that place. So speaking of which,
Right.
we have a video of, what is it? Oh, Stephen Miller, the Crypt Keeper. He is threatening our children. I want to play this video and then I want to get your thoughts about this on the other side. This is like what happened this week among all of the other madness that happened. So that's why I wanted to open it with like a happy little jingle before we get started. So here's the Crypt Keeper here.
Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues.
Your thoughts.
I think when I was younger, I would not have looked at that like there was something wrong with it. And I have those moments where I sit back and I realize like how much deconstruction has actually happened, because I would have been like, well, why wouldn't we want people to love America and learn about all the amazing things that America is and be a good American? Like, why wouldn't you? Like it to me, like that, because people are thinking at it in such a like an elementary school level understanding of like what the bigger impacts of that actually is, because people want to talk about the intent, the stated intent versus the impact. When he says we want to teach people to love America, it's not teach people to love America despite what its history, its painted history is, and try to do better for the nation, knowing that history. It's, we don't want anyone thinking that America has ever done bad things ever. We're going to operate from a place of delusion. And so they remove all of the context that would allow you to actually kind of learn to build community within the country, learn to actually have the community that they pretend they want us to have with ourselves. It contributes to more of that. You're either in the in crowd or you're everybody else. And I know that they have said in other countries, and I didn't even know that up until a few years ago, that other countries don't like stand and pledge to their flag. Like, I had no idea.
I saw a guy the other day that made it was a white guy. He made a really good video. He's one that's on the deconstruction journey as well. And he said, so they're trying to force all of these like Christianity, and force everybody to quote, love America, because they think that people for it, well, he mentioned the Black people, Native American people, and every other marginalized. He's like, how do you think that they feel about the flag? He was talking about the flag, the American flag. He was like, and he threw out the question to his listeners, his audience. How do you think Black people, Native Americans, LGBTQ, or well, I don't know about that community, but mainly Native Americans, say Native Americans and Black people. How do you think they feel about that American flag and what it stands for, and what it's been used to oppress them? Like, that's a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah. And I think I always understood that the Confederate flag was racist, right? Even from a very young age, I understood that it was racist. You always, in movies that had the KKK, there was always a Confederate flag flying in the back. Like there was always, it was always very clear to me, even if a lot of the other things weren't clear to me, what that flag represented.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a very new experience for me to start seeing and realizing that when I was starting to see people who would like cover their properties in American flags, that it had a very similar vibe. Because in reality, both of those flags, under both of those flags, slavery existed. Under
Mm-hmm.
both of those flags, genocide existed. And so it's coming to that understanding, that realization. And what they're afraid of, and what these Christian nationalists are so deeply afraid of, and what has been used to control Christians in general within the faith, as well as, at least in the extreme elements of it, as well as people in this country, is shame.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not being able to sit with those feelings and using shame and guilt to keep people subservient, to keep people quiet, to keep people complacent. Um, and that's what they want. They want people who don't, love America to feel shame for that, or they think that if they're taught the reality that that's people shaming them, when in reality it's like, do you feel ashamed? And maybe that's worth exploring. Other people aren't shaming you just because you feel ashamed. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to own how you feel about this, deconstruct how you feel about it, and just recognize that even if it's unconscious, you might play a part in it and maybe do better. It's literally that simple. And people can't get past that threshold of managing their own emotions enough to get there. And we wind up with guys like that at the podium.
I have a short story time. I remember my late husband with the audience. If y'all remember, my late husband of 20 years was a white man from Queens, New York. He was a ginger, very like Casper the Ghost. He's funny. Anyway, he took me to a hockey game, and this was like after my first back surgery. So I'm sitting there, and I've never been to a hockey game, and I was just there. I wanted to see the fights, and stuff like that. So we were sitting down, and before they start the game, they played the national anthem. So everybody stood up, and he stood up. I don't think he put his hand over his chest, but he stood up, and I did not. I sat there. He looked back at me. He smiled at me, but then he turned and looked forward. So I even fell asleep at the hockey game because there was no big fights or anything. But anyway, after we left, he's like, "Why did you stand up for the national anthem?" And I said, "Well, that song is not written for me or people like me." I said, "It does not represent me." And he just kind of thought about it, and he was like, "Duly noted." And that was the end of that.
Right.
He understood.
Right. And did he need to feel this deep shame and then blame you for being anti-American? Or he was
Nope.
like, hey, you're actually
Nope.
an American who has a right to sit this out if you want.
Right. He just had this smile. He just had a smile, and he was just like nodding his head because I guess, he was just thinking, I can, probably thinking, because we didn't talk about it in detail. Huh?
With what the British imposed on the Irish as far as like culturally, I mean, maybe he just kind of understood, you know what I mean? Like being forced to do the pageantry of somebody else's crown in a way, or somebody else's government and structures and systems.
Right. Yeah, he was just like, he just kind of had that sense of knowing me too. Like I said, we've been together 20 years, but I could see him thinking after I said that. And so I could imagine he was just thinking, probably about the Native Americans and slavery and then the flag waving and all of that. And then especially now, since 2015, and more so since January the 7th, what are we supposed to think of that flag?
January 6th.
Or 6th, January 6th.
December 7th.
Yeah, right. I mean, what are we supposed to think? I mean, I saw those people take the American flag and beating those security officers.
Yeah. I think it's heartbreaking what they've turned that symbol and what they've allowed that symbol to continue to represent. We'll say it that way, because I don't think that they turned it into that symbol. I think that they just stopped being afraid to allow that symbol to be exactly what that was, openly, in the same way that the Confederate flag was so open, right? And if we're not willing to look at those pieces, like I actually had a conversation this week with one of my best friend's daughters. She's in high school, and they were teaching her that Malcolm X was pro-violence, and then at the end of his life, he was only about peace and said that, he didn't like violence at all, and then that's why people in his own community killed him. And I was like, oh,
that's what I was taught. I was taught the same thing.
Right. But so was I, right? Well, actually, I wasn't taught that at all. I wasn't taught that he ever chose peace. In fact, I was taught that really extreme. He was just a violent Muslim.
Yeah, that's what I was taught, because they didn't even go into detail.
Right. And so I actually sat and we talked about hey, actually, let's break this down. Let's understand how to analyze the source of the information and why that source might want you to understand or believe things that way. And it's important. I was like, you still have something to learn from this, even though what they're teaching you is not accurate. It's important to know why you're learning something that's not accurate and who's teaching it to you and why, because it'll help you understand different sources and how to have critical thinking skills. And we kind of had an opportunity to kind of break that down. And it's just going to be a consistent battle to kind of pushing back on those things, on the whitewash narrative of the history of Black activism in the United States as something that was just this
passive,
nonviolent. I told her, I was like, the Civil Rights Act didn't actually get passed until after the riots, after the riots, after the violence on both sides, really. If you not that it was equal violence, but Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Riots broke out in response, and then we get the Civil Rights Act is finally they realize this isn't going well, and they all of a sudden pen to paper real quick, all of a sudden they could pass something.
That was just a performative.
Yeah.
performative act. And speaking of the continued legacy of whitewashing our history, so there was a white woman a few days ago. I don't have that video because it was kind of triggering, but the little boy involved was a black boy that's autistic. And apparently she's crying white tears now because she called him the N word over and over and over again. She was being filmed. Now she's got a GoFundMe. I'm going to play this video that explains a little bit of it, and then we're going to talk on the other side.
Okay, TikTok, this is not a joke. By now, I know all of you have seen the video of the white woman, a mother, who used the N-word directed at a young autistic black child in the playground. She was rightfully called out for that behavior, and since then, she has cried her white tears into raising a lot of money. She's trying to raise $1 million. And here's the ugliest part about it. She has already raised $300,000. Can you guess who's donating all the money to her? It's all her white supremacist friends. These are people who in the comments are openly saying that they want to get rid of all the black people in the United States. I'm supposed to be filming a kimchi pancake video right now, and I am so upset that this woman is able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars on the back of her explicit white supremacist views. I can't even think straight right now. All I can think about are the number of times that people have told me that racism isn't all that bad in the United States, that we've come such a long way, that you're making it out worse than it is. Why are you so divisive talking about racism? Children are being called the N-word by white people in playgrounds, and then those white people are able to raise over $250,000. They are being heralded as heroes right here in the United States. Not just that these everyday people are willing to part with their hard-earned money in support of white supremacy. This company, Give, Send, Go, despite having terms and conditions that clearly spell out the fact that campaigns on the basis of racism should not be allowed, has done absolutely nothing to remove this blatantly racist campaign from their platform. So we have people who are using the N-word against autistic black children in playgrounds. We have people who are openly calling for the removal and eradication of all black people from the United States, parting with their money. We have $300,000 raised in support of white supremacy. And now we have companies who are literally doing absolutely nothing about it. Here's the silver lining, the NAACP. Of course, the NAACP, because of course, this is what happens. They need to come out to continue propping up the moral fucking arc that appears to be collapsing all around us. They have set up a GoFundMe for the family of the young autistic child who was subjected to such disgusting hate speech. And you can donate to this fund now. I've included the link in my bio in case you need that. Shamefully, it is only at $30,000. I know, you can't compare the amount of money that's raised in one fund against the other, but I'm human and I'm going to do that. And I really, really need you all to make this number go way higher and prove to me and to everyone who's fucking sad as fuck right now that this is happening, that we live in a country that's filled with people who are not going to let the white supremacists win.
Thoughts? That's heartbreaking.
I think that this isn't going to age well. It just doesn't. It's not going to age well for her, for anybody who put their name on those donations. The in-between time is very damaging. It's very traumatizing. And it's important that we have voices speaking up to push back against this type of thing. Because just allowing the reality is that this money that she raised is coming out of the pockets of people who also can't really afford to be giving her that. She's grifting her own people, right?
She learned from the best.
You know what I'm saying? She's grifting her own people. If they want to grift each other, you know what? Actually, be my guest. What you're not going to do is then tap into, and I'm not going to allow that to continue to spread and create some type of idea that that's how we're going to just be establishing ourselves publicly all the time, that it's acceptable publicly all the time.
Mhm.
Like, we need to make it quite clear with the companies that are allowing these things to be hosted on their websites, because individuals, if they want to grift each other, fine. But the fact that these companies are enabling that kind of thing to happen, enabling the racism to be so publicly demonstrated on the platforms in the way that they are, these people wouldn't have an option to do something like this if they didn't have a company allowing them the option to do something like this. There's no way she would just be able to go out there into her community and be like, hi, I said the N-word out loud at like the grocery store and have a plaque saying, help donate because I'm getting consequences for calling an autistic boy the N-word. It's only possible because there's a computer screen between the people doing it and the action itself. And so they feel so much safer to do it. And so I think if we're going to push back on things, yeah, sure, absolutely target the individual that needs to be held accountable, but let's not, like the woman in the video was saying, is like, let's not forget that like it's clearly this company is supporting behavior like this and is upholding behavior like this, and we will not stand for it. And I think that will get a bigger message out faster in the same way that Starbucks and McDonald's have had to learn.
And Target. Target's going to go away at Kmart. I can't wait for that. But
exactly.
On to our next topic, which is protests this week. Happened Mayday. There were global protests for, was it unions and workers, and to push back against Trump. So they were trying to incorporate all that together. Yeah. But I want to play a video because, as everyone knows, the 92% of Black women have decided to kind of not pull back from the front lines, not pull back altogether, because they're still organizing behind the scenes. Right. But I want to play this a couple of clips, and then we're going to talk on the other side.
So yesterday, Bernie Sanders held a rally, a Mayday rally in Philadelphia. It was a rally for workers, migrant workers, for immigrants, basically anybody who was against the administration and Trump, right? Amongst the thousands of people that were there in protest, thousands of white people, by the way. Thousands of white people, by the way, right? There were about 70 people arrested. Guess what? Majority of those people that were arrested were the few Black people who were out there. Although I have personally stressed time and time again, please do not go out into the roads, don't go in the streets, do not protest, because I have a feeling you will be sought after. Although I have preached this multiple times on my platform, there's still some of us who feel passionately enough and want to go out there. And so they did. And because of that, they were arrested.
And a lot going on behind you.
Yeah, a lot going on, Fred, right now. Things kind of took a little bit of a turn.
This was a coincidence?
Some of the protesters got a warning twice
Who
to
you
vacate
see
so they can
is
open
being
up
walked through
Broad and Vine. And you
in
can see
zip
some are now
ties.
being put in zip ties and being led away over to a bus that's over there.
There's another arrest.
What's going on right now?
That's not the same.
Do you have anything to say? No?
Solidarity.
Is it worth it to make a stand like this?
Solidarity forever.
The reporter asked her, was it worth making a stance like this? And her response was solidarity forever. Where are the white allies? Where are they? Why weren't they shielding her? Why did y'all let her get them? Not even just her. Why did y'all let them get arrested so easily? Why wasn't any commotion being made? Where's the solidarity? Where is it? And this is why I don't want any of my people, I don't want anybody who is of color going out there. I don't want you out there. I don't want you out there because we will say solidarity. We will ask for peace. We will ask for union. But then when we expect for it to be returned, crickets. Fucking crickets. And don't tell me, oh, why you gotta make everything about race. That crowd was filled with thousands of white people. Thousands of white people, yet they managed to find 2 black women to put in zip ties and to parade in front of the reporters and the cameras. Stop playing in my face.
Yep. Absolutely. Because parading a black person who's been arrested at a protest around is exactly what the opposition wants to see. And so we don't want to be giving the opposition what they want to see. We want to show them that if they're going to arrest somebody, that they're arresting white people. You're only going to get through to some of these people when they see people who look like them being arrested, being treated the way that we all know that protesters are often treated.
And all of those protests that happened like a month or so back, and then I see this. Just like, on that, we will be closing out. And thank you for joining me, Rosalie. And we're not done with this conversation. Oh, there you are. Okay. So everybody, don't forget to thumbs up, like the video, leave a comment, leave us a voicemail. And Rosalie, any last words?
Make sure that you go and check out the page. Website's going to be linked. If you want to get some of those amazing glasses frames, please check those out. Also, we would love to have some donations to the podcast itself. That way we can keep the channel running the way that it normally runs, and Sharron can have a little bit more wiggle room to keep building this thing out, and we can make this a bigger reality for more people and help more people.
And we also have merchandise, so I always put those links in so you guys can check out the mugs and t-shirts. We got pillows and hoodies and children's shirts. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.